everyone, this is Yousif from Crafting Clouds, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a deep dive into Method CRM's security model. At the end of this video, you're going to have a thorough understanding of how Method CRM security works, and we're going to go through all the levels of security. So let's begin. So Method CRM security is definitely set up like a pyramid with the very first layer at the bottom and the widest layer, and then each layer on top of that, it basically narrows down your scope into what you have access to in the system. So let's start from the very bottom, which is the platform security. So platform security has to do with essentially anything that is, let me scroll down a little bit here. Anything that has to do with setting up the user's access to the platform, what role should they have? So the role could be anything like a regular user, a customizer, or an admin. So oftentimes when you're inviting users to the system, the very first thing it's going to ask you is, what type of user is this going to be? Is this going to be a regular user, a customizer, or an admin? I also have a video, explaining how to add users in Method. So I'll link that video down below in the description, and you can understand how that experience works as well. And that's essentially a big part of setting up the platform level security for your users. So what does it mean for a regular user, or customizer, or an admin? So to start off, a regular user is someone who is not going to have customizing privileges in the platform, and is simply going to have access only to the apps that they need to perform their job. So those apps that they're given access to, they could have something called CRUD permissions. So create, read, update, or delete. So what that means is that within that app, you can also drive whether they're allowed to create records, whether they're allowed to edit records, delete records, or if they should just be a read-only user, basically only have access to that app to read, but not do anything else. So that's your regular user. And that is the most common user type that I've seen in the 10 years or over 10 years now. It's almost 11 years now that I've been in Method CRM and building solutions for businesses. That is the most popular user type. Then you also have the customizer user. Now, this user is the least popular. I don't see anyone really with this model. It's either between the regular user or the admins. But you could use this. So the customizer is basically someone who's a level up from the regular user, and they actually have access to customize the apps that they have access to. So if they have access to the estimates app, they will also have access to go ahead and customize the area of the estimate that suits their team's needs and be able to publish these apps, work in a dev environment. So they're more of like a developer without having access to other areas. The only thing that they're able to do is customize. Again, this is not a popular option. It's usually between regular or admin. Then you have the admin level. So admin is always given by default to the first person who signs up to Method. So whoever's entering in their email, signing up to Method and logging in for the first time for their entire company, they are automatically given the admin access to the platform. Now, what does an admin get? They get all the permissions that a regular customizer gets. So they're able to customize, they're able to access apps and stuff like that. But on top of that, they have the ability to access what we call the platform settings pages. So those are your account settings page, as well as that could be your integrations page. So account settings, if I were to just quickly show you, we're in my demo account. If I go into account settings, as an admin, I have access to now subscription. So I can go ahead and add users, view how much I'm paying for subscription. I don't know why it's not loading right now, but it should. Oh, there it is. It just took a little while. But right here, I can see how many users for each pack, how much I'm paying, right? And I can go into my invoice history. I can dive into each pack, add new users. So this is a way of configuring access to the app and driving up or down that subscription cost. Then you also have access to the users, which is another way of accessing your user profiles. And as an admin, you have control over giving access to all of the users, what they should see. So you can manage their permissions. You can go into particular apps. You can uncheck an app that you don't want them to see, or you can check an app that you want them to see. And then you can basically uncheck the areas that they should not have access to. So maybe they don't have access to manage the app. And managing the app is essentially setting up those permissions for other users. So maybe you don't want them to set up permissions for other users. You just want them to be able to edit or delete, so on and so forth. Now, for anything that you see here that is disabled, oftentimes it's because it's a platform level rule, right? But also because maybe the app itself doesn't have those rights or permissions for that to grant you these permissions. All right, so they're just disabled by default. And what I mean by that is, if we go to, for example, the items app, let me go to items here. Where's items? And I go and I hit manage. Okay, see, like rights is disabled here, but let me go into a custom app. So the reason why it's disabled because it's a stock app out of Method. They don't let you touch that area anyways. But if you see something disabled on that grid that I just showed you, it's because the rights are not granted that particular rights, right? So basically, if that right is granted, then I'll show up in the permissions, all right? And then if we go back, so let me go back to platform level security. So the admin, another admin page. So that was your account settings, right? So admins are only given access to this. The communications, another popular one. So this is to set up, your email server. So if you use Outlook or Gmail, you'd connect it through here. Maybe you want to authenticate your domain for better email deliverability. Only an admin has access to that. You can see, your email queue. So this is stuff that has been delivered. You can see what's bounced, what's been clicked, what's been opened. Again, this is something that's only given to admins. Okay. So I'm not going to go through the entire page, but I think you get the message of, what admins, what extra features they have access to. Another page that admins have access to is the integrations page. So the integrations page is where you're going to see your QuickBooks sync. So whether you're on QuickBooks Online or desktop, you'll see the status of the sync there. You'll be able to see any sync conflicts that come up. You'll be able to troubleshoot those sync conflicts. You'll be able to manage your settings of your sync engine. So depending on whether you're a QuickBooks desktop or online user, those settings could vary. Then you have access to the API, which is definitely something that only an admin should have access to. And that API is to give rights to another platform once you give them the API key to allow that platform to integrate and communicate directly with Method. Okay. And then you also have the documentation for what the Method CRM API offers in terms of what you can do and what you can integrate with. And then you can import data, you can export data through their import-export tool. You have access to various integrations such as payment gateways. That's another popular one. So if you want to set up a payment gateway like QuickBooks Payments, as soon as you connect QuickBooks Payments to this, it's going to automatically appear in all of the flows that Method offers out of the box. The most popular one is the invoice flow, where basically they can go ahead and view an invoice and pay for that invoice within the portal. So again, I'm not going to go through everything here, but this is another page that is only given to admins. Customizers won't see this. Regular users definitely won't see this. So that explains kind of that platform level are those pages. That's platform level settings that are given to only a certain role, which is the admin. So that's where you're defining the platform level security. So that's the very first layer. Okay. Now let me zoom out a little bit and let's move over to the app level. Okay. So this is the second layer. Now this is where we're now narrowing the scope. That's why we're doing this pyramid. We're narrowing the scope from the platform for that user. We're defining their role, whether they're regular, customizer, or admin. And now we're continuing to the app level security. So for these users, you're now continuing to set up what they should have access to in terms of apps. So again, going back to that screen as an admin, this is where an admin would define the app level security. So they would go into users, they would choose the users that they want to provide access to the platform, and they would go to this access permissions tab underneath their user profile. They would click manage permissions, and now you're going to see all these packs that Method offers. Okay, so packs is a part of their subscription model. I talk about this in a separate video. I won't go deep into this, but essentially it's a part of their billing subscription model. And within each pack, there's apps that are contained within each pack. So for example, if for this particular user, we don't want them to have access to both bills and purchase orders, we're going to uncheck that pack. Then in that pack, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to uncheck it, right? Or we're going to just uncheck the particular app that they should have access to within that pack. So maybe they should have access to see purchase orders, but not bills, right? Or maybe they should have access to both, but they shouldn't have access to manage and they shouldn't have access to delete. Okay. So they should only have access to view. All right. So that's what's going to drive their app level permissions. So now you're defining that second layer of, okay, now they're either regular, customized, or admin user. And on top of that, they're only able to view both bills and purchases. I understand it only says edit, right? But if you select edit, right, within edit, we can actually uncheck. Sorry, let me correct that. If we uncheck the edit checkbox, that's where they have access to it, but they're only able to view. If we click edit, yes, they can edit those apps, but they won't be able to delete them. All right. So they can hit save and stuff like that. But if they ever want to delete a bill or purchase order, we're removing that ability. Okay. So that is the difference between a read only, setting up read only for someone by unchecking the edit column, or allowing them to edit, but then not allowing them to delete. So that's a simple example. And again, just to reiterate, the manage area of an app is right here. So if I go into a particular area, let's say I'll go to opportunities and I hit manage. It's this area right here. So manage gives them access to certain screens and to be able to see various screens behind the scenes, be able to redirect screens, be able to set security on screens, be able to copy screens, be able to set up app routines or access the app routines within the screen. So an app routine is an automation that can run on a schedule or it can be run manually. Okay. And then also permissions. So being able to actually set up other people's access to the app. So by unchecking that manage checkbox, you're basically removing their access to this area of the app, which is the administrative area. So really a regular user should never have managed access to this. A customizer or an admin potentially could. An admin for sure. A customizer, again, maybe customizer should only be able to manage apps that they're allowed to customize, right? And then you'll notice there's a lot of options here that are disabled. Again, the reason why is because this is a stock app that Method gives you out of the box. They don't allow you to modify this stuff. If you were to build a custom app, such as my advanced pricing module, and we were to go ahead and hit manage app here, you'll see everything opens up. That's because this is a custom app. This is something that we're building from scratch. It's not a Method CRM stock app. So it's giving you full privileges to customize whatever you like, however you want the app to behave. So you see extra options here, such as snapshots, which is basically these counters at the bottom here. These are called your snapshots. So an ability to click new price rule and it goes directly to a new price rule record, as well as the count of price rules, which if you click it, it just takes you to your list of price rules. So that's pertaining to my custom app there. That's what a snapshot is. Okay. And then you'll go into your general area. So this is where you put in your description, what your base table should be, starting screen, the icon. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here. You also have your record summary, which is important for app ribbons. Okay. So that's going to show up if you configure app ribbons, which is an app ribbon is essentially, if I open up a contact, this is an app ribbon on the right-hand side. So if you wanted your custom app to show up here, up top here, you would need to go back into the advanced pricing area and hit manage and configure your app ribbon for it. And it'll show up as a tab there. Okay. Then you have your rights. So again, these, if you don't check these off, they're going to show as disabled in the app permissions, right? So if I go now and I'm just going to go into account settings, users. I'm going to open up my user, okay? Manage permissions. I'm going to go to my custom app. Where is it? Advanced pricing, right there. You see how it's all disabled here? I can't configure anything from an app level security, right? And the reason why is because I haven't granted that app the rights. So I have to go back to manage this app, go to rights, check off all of these, hit save. Now, if I go back to that area, I open up the user, okay? I go to access permissions, I go to manage permissions, advanced pricing, boom. Now things start opening up. Now, because I'm an admin user, these are disabled. As an admin, you're automatically granted rights to both manage and customize. These will never change. So that's why these will always stay checked to be disabled. But now I have options to configure. Now, there's still an added step, okay, for your custom apps. Just because I uncheck this and I hit save doesn't mean that it's actually going to remove that edit permission for my custom app. And the reason why is that there's still one last step to wire this thing up. And that is, if I go ahead and I go to my screen, okay, I open up this area, and let's say if I uncheck that edit check box, it shouldn't allow me to basically edit anything here. It should just disable everything. Well, we have to build the actions for it, okay? How do you build the actions for it? I'm not going to actually do it for you, but I'm going to quickly just show you and point you in the right direction. Well, let me actually edit the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I go to my page actions, these are the actions that are going to run off the page as soon as you visit this screen. It's going to trigger these actions to run, okay? So right away, I'm going to look for a check permission area. This is where I'm going to go ahead and select my advanced pricing app, click edit for this user record ID, right? I want to check permission for the signed in user that I'm in, and I'm going to call this result edit permission. This is my variable right here, okay? So I'm storing this as a variable, okay? So edit permissions, all right? And then what I would do is I would go ahead and do a conditional to say, if the edit permission is set to false, is no, right? If no edit permissions, that's when I have to go in now and disable the areas in the screen. So I actually have to go into my sections here, and I got to go ahead and disable all of my sections, right? So section nav, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not going to completely drive this home, but this will guide you into the right direction. Then, if it's true, you want to copy this, put it in your else condition, because that's if they do have edit permissions, you want to enable this. So you still have to define the behavior for each one of those permissions. So there's actually a lot of setup for your custom apps to really connect that platform settings screen to your custom app. Now, this is already handled for you on your stock app screens across all of your stock apps, whether it's estimates, contacts, whatever. They already handle this for you, so you don't have to worry about that. But for your custom apps, you do have to wire this. So something that I wanted to emphasize on. All right, so we covered now app level security, and let's go into record level security. So now we're narrowing the scope even more. So for those of them who have access to those particular apps, we also want to drive what access to the records within those apps they should see, right? They should have access to. So how do we do that? If I go back, okay, and let's go into my contacts app, okay? So right now I see all of my contacts, okay? And let's say that as a user, my user should not have access to see any other. So my contacts, actually, let's just confirm. Because this is QBO, right? It's going to run off of the assigned to right here, okay? So I believe, actually, I'm assigned to everyone. So this might not actually be a good example. Oh, no. Okay, so let's see here. let me actually remove Joe the handyman. Okay, so let me just remove this access right here and hit save and back. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you. So for my user, if I go in, I go to my user. I'm now defining the record level access. So I'm still going back to the access permissions where you're configuring the app level, but right underneath it is the record access. Okay, in the record access, what I'm going to do is this would be checked by default. Okay, now one thing I must emphasize on, this record access tool will not work if even one user has this option checked. Even one. That means even for your admins, you have to uncheck this and just select all the users, hit save, so that they have access to all the users, and also give them access to empty records. That is equivalent to an admin user being able to see everything. Okay. Now for the non-admins, you would remove the records for their peers that they shouldn't have access to. Maybe they should have access to maybe records that belong in their team. So maybe they have a few colleagues that work with them closely and you want to add them here. If not, and you only wanted them to see their own records, you're going to go ahead and remove everyone from this peer-to-peer access. And you're also going to remove access to empty records. What that means is, you see how from Joe the Handyman, I removed myself as the assigned to user to that. So if I uncheck this option and hit save, I will no longer see Joe the Handyman in my list. So if I go ahead and I search, look at that. Joe the Handyman is nowhere to be found right here. Okay. And we actually significantly reduced the access. So I don't know if you noticed, I had him almost double this before. Okay. Now, if I go back, and I think I know why. It's because I also removed my access to Method support as peer-to-peer. And that was because there were some records that are being assigned to Method support. So if I go ahead and I go back here and I hit save, those records will come back up. And if I also allow access to empty records and I hit save, watch what happens when I go back to my contacts app. Boom. We just went back up from 7 to 13 records, just like that. And now if we look for Joe the Handyman, he's right there. Second one from the top. Okay. So that is your record level security. So you're defining, it's not per app. When you're defining your record level access from the platform settings is going to be across the board for all of your apps. So if you needed something where you did want them to see all records for one app, but you didn't want them to see records for another app, then we would need to customize something there. Okay. Now, continuing along, we finally have now the field level security. So this is the narrowest scope in the last part of Method CRM security model. And this is something that we're going to now continue to build because unfortunately, Method does not give you field level security out of the box. You actually have to customize it. And I'm going to show you how. So what we're going to do, let's imagine that I am a sales rep, or no, let's imagine that I'm an operations or shipping handler, okay, in the operations team. And I work directly in their warehouse. And I need to have access to invoices because I need to know what to ship, but I don't need to see the rates or the amounts, and I don't need to see the balance up here, okay? For right now, I'm not going to hide the rate and amount because there's just a little bit more involved, and for the sake of keeping this video as short as possible, I'm going to go ahead and just leave that alone, but we can hide this. There is a way to do it, but for right now, we're just going to hide the footer totals as well as the balance, okay? So what we need to do is we need to first customize a user's app. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna create a custom app, okay? I'm gonna call this users, and I'm just gonna say users here, and then we're gonna base it off of the users table. Icon, for the icon, you can change it to, let's see here. I'm gonna change the icon to this. All right, and now we're going to customize our first screen. I'm just going to add in my sections. Okay. And let's go ahead and let's add in our buttons for our top nav area. So this is our nav area that I'm just quickly defining. So I'm going to put save here. I'm going to show an icon, save. Okay. And then I'm just going to add an action here, save all. And then back, we're going to go here, chevron. Okay. Icon color, primary. We're going to go to screen. So I'm just building up my user's app screen right now so that we can define our record, our field level security. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to add in an editable grid. This is by default based off of the users table because that's what our screen table is based off of. I'm just going to define this users. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm also going to define the screen. Okay. Just going to add padding here. This is just some best practices that I like to do to format my screens to be nice and clean. Okay. And then I'm also just going to add top border size. We're going to do silver solid. Okay. Let's add a button here. Okay. Save and back. Let's do full. I'm going to call save. And then this is back. All right. So there we go. And now what we want to do is just add in the columns to our users grid. So I'm going to put in username. Why not? Let's just add an email. And this should all be set to, I mean, you could change this. I would recommend you don't though. So if you want to change their username and email, go to the actual platform page as an admin. Don't do it within here, just as a best practice. So I'm going to set these to read only. Okay. And I'm just going to say name here, email, and let's go ahead. And we're also going to define, okay. I'm going to say manage your users roles here for field level security. Okay, I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to go to my users table and I'm going to add in my own custom roles dropdown. And this is going to be the key field that we're going to use across our platform and across our screens to define the field level security based off of the role that they're given. Okay. So I'm going to do new table. And let's say we're going to do sales, service, operations. And then I'm going to say shipping. And let's say admin. Okay. So these are our roles. I'm going to hit save. Let's go back to our users app right here. Okay. And then our users app, let's go here. I'm going to hide this. Let's add a column here. User role column. Okay. And then I'm going to define our view. This is the last part of our grid setup. Okay. And I'm only going to look at active users. I don't want to see anyone else. I don't want to see, we don't need to configure field level for inactive users. And we're just going to hit save. Here we go. So now, by default, Method gives you this unassigned user, which is fairly new. It's actually really nice because it allows you to filter for unassigned records and see unassigned records more clearly. It also helps for dispatching for field service companies where they need to, assign a work order to someone and it's currently unassigned. So this is a nice tool. But for right now, let's go ahead and let's give myself a role. So right now I want to give myself the shipping role and I'm going to hit save and back. And now we're going to go to our invoices app and we're going to hide those amounts because as a shipping person, I don't need to see the amounts. I just need to see the items and the quantities that I need to pick and pack. Okay, so now let's go here. I'm going to go into my focus action editor. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my users table and I'm going to choose the user. So record ID for the, I'm going to select the user that's currently signed in. So that's that session user record ID. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for I'm going to look at my new field. You see this roles area here? This is the administrator, customizer, regular roles that we were talking about. We can't leverage this. This is something that is locked to Method. So don't use this ever. Always create a custom user role dropdown. So I'm going to go and pick up my user role, put it in a variable. Okay. So grab users role. All right. And then we're going to do a conditional statement. And we're going to say, if the user's role is shipping, which we just set for my profile, so I'm just going to put shipping here, we want to hide. Okay, so what we're going to want to hide is, let's go ahead and just hide sec footer totals. Let's hide that. What else do we want to hide? Probably balance, right? So we want to hide this stuff. Balance due. So right here, what I'm doing is I am actually defining the field level security for a shipping user, right? Now, I'm going to say hide totals. Okay. As I said, we can also configure it so that the grid rate and amount is also hidden, but it's a little bit more involved. And just for the sake of keeping this video as short and concise, I'm just going to do the main header totals for right now. Okay. Now I'm also putting in my else condition to show these totals if you're not a shipping user. So if we go ahead and we close this up now, let's see what happens. Okay. So you'll notice my footer area is gone, completely gone. So we've hid now a section. So field level security hides sections. You can change behaviors on the screen. So it's not only just field level security, but you're also, based off of the person's role, you could set up actual automations based off of the person who's visiting that screen. Maybe there should be a pop-up that comes up for a shipping user automatically. And that pop-up should just appear for anyone who's shipping. That is an automation that you can set up. Okay. But for right now, I'm just doing the simplest example, which is hiding fields and sections. Now our balance due is still not hidden. So let's go ahead and just check that out quickly. So let's go to balance due. So we got balance due here. We got voided. Okay. So let's go here and let's find out what's happening with our balance due. Okay. So balance due hidden. There's definitely another action in here. If you see something still hidden, it's because there's another action that's happening outside of it that's also showing the balance due. Okay. So right here, they're showing the balance due here. So let's just hide it for right now. Okay. This is not the right way, by the way, of going about things, because this is also going to impact all your other users. So what I really should be doing is I should be adding a conditional here, right? And I should be retrieving my user role and putting this within my user role conditional of shipping, and then copying this for anyone who's not shipping, putting into the else condition. That is the right way of doing it. But just for, again, the sake of keeping this video short, I'm not going to actually configure that right now. But there we go. So we're just going to hide this. And let's see what other areas. So right here is a cool reference area, which is really nice. This one did not exist when I used to work at Method. So we used to actually have to go and just search through everything in the screen. And it would sometimes take hours to really narrow down and find out the areas of impact. This saves a ton of time. So then we're going to go right here. Okay, so I believe it's hiding the areas here. Let's go ahead and give this a shot and see what happens now. Okay, so the balance is still showing. Hidden. Is it this text area? Inside here. Hide. Yeah, it is that text area. We got to hide that. There we go. That's what it was. Okay. So as you can see, I'm troubleshooting along the way, so you can see how I work, and this should give you some insights on how you can troubleshoot as well in Method. All right. So there you go. Now what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've hidden this as a shipping user, but it's probably going to stay hidden also because I didn't put in those extra conditions for shipping for those other areas. So let's just try to put it back and see what happens. So let's go back here. Let's go into our users app. Let me change myself now to an admin, hit save and back. Okay. And let's go back to our invoice. Let's open up any invoice. Let's go to the first one again. And there you go. See, the section is back. Okay. So this is that field level security that I'm talking about. This is that last area that you must fully customize because Method does not give this to you out of the box. And you have to do this for each role that you define for your business. I just went ahead and I thought of the most common ones that I remember across businesses, which is sales, service, operations, shipping, admin. You may have more, you may have less. When you create these roles, you still have to wire these roles up to their pertaining areas for the areas of access that they have access to, and make sure that you're also adding those actions in the page actions to pull their user role. And then within their user role that you find and you define a conditional for, you then enter in the logic of what you want to have happen for that particular user. So for this video, we just did it for shipping, but imagine you can also do it for admin, operations, all of your users. This now concludes full level security and giving you a full understanding of security in Method CRM. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me down in my information down below. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a like and subscribe down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!